What happened here is that they had a single employee who basically hid small package delivery expenses of about $151 million. That was over a 3-year period. So for the year to date, I think it was about $9 million is the effect in the, for that period. So the company, of course, had to lower their guidance and the gross margin figures and EPS, of course, because it drops all the way down there. But it doesn't affect cash. So that's the good news. And it's put behind them. What they have done is they've improved their financial controls. They've added some additional checks and balances there. So I think this is now behind them. And I think the real focus here is on the go forward operations. And I say go forward, meaning let's exclude the 150 stores that they're going to close. 65 of those stores will close in the fourth quarter. That's ahead of the original 50 they slated to close. And then the other 85, maybe that'll get done by next year instead of the next 2 years. Nonetheless, if you put those aside and you look at what's going on with the go forward business, we're seeing sequential improvement with the first 50 stores that they've completely revamped actually posting a positive increase. They were up 1.9% in the third quarter, and that's the third quarter of positive comp improvement there. So we're actually seeing signs that the plans, the initiatives that they're employing are working. So we see some green shoots in there. And we think this accounting issue is behind them.
All right. What does a revamped store look like? What's the strategy behind a revamped store?
Paul, that's a good question. So what that means is they've really upped their game in terms of merchandising. They brought in new brands like La Avec Fille, Donna Karan, Karl Lagerfeld, Steve Madden. These brands offer great style and value to the company. Their private label program has been completely revamped. Now that's only about 15% of sales, so the biggest part is really bringing in these other brands. But not only that, they've upped their game in terms of service. They now have salespeople in the shoe department, and then they have runners. So what happens is a salesperson will be working directly with a client, and they'll say, hey, I need size 8, size 8.5 in this, and then they run and go get them. And then also they have service in handbags and in women's ready-to-wear. So having boosted the service levels, also improving the overall appearance throughout the stores, we've been in our channel checks watching this happen, and we see the improvement. We see how that they got rid of some brands that were less relevant, brought in these newer ones. And we also saw during that Black Friday, we saw this year more traffic in the stores than we saw in the prior 2 years. And of course, when you look at the data, their sales were better this year. They saw an increase in the Black Friday through Cyber Monday in the consumer transaction data. And that's something the company mentioned on the call today, that yes, they're seeing strong, or sort of sequential improvement versus the third quarter into the fourth quarter. So I think those are some of the
way you're describing, Mary, the revamped stores, it sounds a little bit like Bloomingdale's Light.
You know what? That's exactly, if you look at let's say one of their better, what they would call one of their flagships. So we have one here right next door in Century City. It does very much look like a Bloomingdale's. The store is, it's brand new. I mean, they've remodeled it 4 or 5 times within the last few years. What I mean by that is they've expanded beauty. So you walk in, it's an incredible showcase of beauty. Also includes Blue Mercury, of course. So we've seen and the stores are so much brighter, but even in a tired old mall down in Southern California that I will go to, even that store looks much better, even though it's sort of a tired location. They've really improved it. The better brands that they've incorporated, making these little Calvin Klein, they look like little boutique shops. Michael Kors, Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, those are all in there and beautifully appointed. It's much more open. There's not just a sea of merchandise. It just makes more sense. So that's been extended across another 100 stores. So not just the 50, but another 100.
All right.
So and
I just want to get real before we have to jump, Mary Ross. What's the company saying just about holiday sales so far? Is it kind of confirming what you've seen?
Yes, they did. They said that they saw a good start to the holiday season, but of course we still have more to go. So and they actually raised their guidance a tad. So I thought that was also an indication of what they're seeing, and so they could potentially beat the guidance, because when they put the guidance out, they really attempt to exceed those figures.